Okay, we're recording. Cool. This is the second time doing this. So, this is the second in a series that I'm going to be doing once a month. This is a Microsoft 365 how-to, and this month is, it's the second Sunday of every month. I've committed to doing this. It's kind of like a personal challenge and just seeing how it goes, This is SharePoint Online 101. So, this may not be for you if you have a family Office 365 plan that might not come with SharePoint Online, but it's still good to know because even if you have OneDrive or OneDrive for Business, it behaves in the same manner in many ways that SharePoint Online does as far as the document library. So your SharePoint or your OneDrive folder kind of acts like a document library, if you will. That's like the file storage portion of SharePoint that you see and that you work in. So it's beneficial to know it anyway, because maybe you're going to work for an employer that uses it. Chances are, I think it's 85% of Fortune 500 companies, as of like a year or so ago, my boss at my job mentioned this. I think it's like 85% of Fortune 500 companies have a SharePoint setup. So it's not going to hurt to know this stuff. I think my last employer, I don't know, 6 years ago maybe, did not have SharePoint and wanted to have it and wanted to implement it because we just saw other companies doing it and realized that, oh my gosh, they can do all this stuff that we can't do, and we want that functionality. We want document versioning. So we're going to get into it. You can learn anything about SharePoint Online. You can sign up for a free Office 365 trial. The cheapest way to get SharePoint for yourself, and it's the subscription I've talked about in the past, and that is signing up for a Office 365 Business Essentials plan. It's $5 a month, but it's just SharePoint comes with it kind of as it's like a business plan, but it's the cheapest business plan, and it's awesome. That's what I have, and I'm going to actually be using my Manly Hanley podcast Office subscription to demonstrate and show SharePoint Online today because mine comes with it. I haven't used the SharePoint functionality because I don't have a company full of people that would use it, but it behaves in the same way. So I'm going to pretend that's the company and then show you how I would use it at work or how you could use it at your work. So let's get started. I'll introduce you to SharePoint a little bit. I'm going to move the screen, move myself down to the corner and try to do the picture-in-picture thing. So hopefully it doesn't get in the way of any of the SharePoint. I tried to make the thumbnail as small as possible. So let's see where that goes. Should jump down. And then when it's on a delay too. I don't see what I'm showing you until 30 seconds later maybe. But when you go to your website at your workplace or wherever you have SharePoint, mine's office.com, that's where you generally log in, and you log in with your domain and your email address for your work. Mine's randy@randyhanley.com. Hopefully I don't have any personal information up on the screen like credit card information. But you log in and you're going to get a screen that looks something like this. It has all these Office apps in the browser. Obviously this is the browser because I'm in a browser window. So you got Office, apps like Outlook, OneDrive, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, SharePoint. There you are. There's SharePoint right there. It's one of those Office 365 or Microsoft 365 apps. So what is SharePoint? I mean, I didn't know what it was for years because the companies I work for didn't have it. Excuse me. SharePoint, it's a collaboration and integration tool. It basically integrates with Microsoft Office, the suite that you have. But like in the cloud, I guess I could explain it that way. There's a huge benefit to using it because a lot of people use Office on our daily jobs. And SharePoint allows you to take those Office tools and collaborate with them. Like Google Docs maybe, but SharePoint has more power in my opinion. It just seems like you can do more, and you can. I mean, it does a lot, but we're going to go with the basics today. This is the how-to, like the 101 class, if you will. I do a more SharePoint advanced course, I guess, at the company I work with. Not super advanced, I'd say like medium level. So I could maybe do a follow-up to this one. But there's so much to learn in Office 365, Microsoft 365, that you can go on forever, really. Oh, hello. Let's see. Hi, Richard. Got a hello here. And this is the reason I'm streaming this live on Facebook is because I have to output it to a recording device anyway. So I'm just going to go live to Facebook. And if anybody wants to join in, it's like doubling up the views, right? Because it's going to YouTube later, but you get first, you get a live feed here where you can do, what can Share do to, I think you meant SharePoint. What can SharePoint do to our daily lives? Well, I mean, granted you work for a company that has Microsoft and uses Microsoft products, it can make your job a lot easier. And I'm going to show you how important it is if you have it at work and why you might want to use it. Or why your employer might require it, because a lot of employers, once they invest in that, they're going to say, you need to use this. If you lose your documents, it's your own fault. So we say that in a nice way where I work, because we want people to have all of the things backed up. And SharePoint's a great way to back up your files too. So maybe you work for a company, Richard, maybe you work for a company that works with everything on a shared drive. A lot of people that come in our company worked for companies previously that used the old school shared drive method. That's like where you almost like plugging in an external hard drive that everybody can connect to. That's going away. I mean, not for like us IT people and stuff, but it's going away as far as being able to be productive and as accessible as it is in the cloud now. Anyways, what I'm seeing. So maybe you work for a company that uses that shared drive, but they're going away from that, and they want to have you put all those documents in SharePoint. They don't want you saving things to the shared drive anymore. Oh man, the server keeps going offline. Microsoft has thousands and thousands and thousands of servers, and if one goes offline, it's not a big deal. They're ready to, they got it back up and running faster than, Randy, the on-site technician, can get a hard drive replaced in his server, and yeah, I'm sure you can hot swap a drive out and get it going quick. Whatever, But Microsoft, they have data centers that are really efficient. They're running all the time. They can do it cheaper than we can. It's just a lot easier. I don't want to get too in depth with this, but a lot of companies are moving away from shared drives. And just, it's an electrical cost, everything, having all this on-site stuff. It's all in the cloud. It's all about subscription-based things. You don't have to invest in this huge infrastructure when you can just stop paying the monthly fee for an employee that leaves the company and not have to maintain the server still, having that residue, if you will. So more or less what SharePoint can do for your daily life is make redundancy and document editing and versioning a lot easier. So I'll show you the first part of it. You can see now that I'm logged into office.com. And thanks, Richard. And I hope I explained that well. That's a good question though. And if you once you log into office.com and you go to, Alexa wrote, when I was in a global role and my team was all over the world, we use this. Great for sharing docs and help with time zones. Awesome. Yes. And, yeah, that's a big one too. We're all over the country, but not all over the world per se. And I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, that's a great thing to know too. Even the Pacific time, just being 3 hours different than me is confusing. I'm like, I'm ending my day at 2 p.m. and people are still working, and yeah, it's just nice that the timestamp's kind of centralized on the document, and you don't have to think about it. So like if I was to go and open up SharePoint now, I click on this icon, you're not going to see anything in my setup here that's exciting. It's this is the more modern view. There's a classic SharePoint view, which I still kind of like. If you at your workplace, you might see it down here on the left side, on the like at the bottom, where you can switch to the classic view. But I'm just going to go to this SharePoint site here, if you will. It's not really, I did not set any of this up. This is just the default squares that they give you. And if you're a SharePoint administrator, your SharePoint admin can make you the maintainer of a SharePoint site too. They can do that. Now, if you're at a really big company and marketing, say, maintains their SharePoint site, you can customize it. You can have a news ticker up at the top. It can just say, don't forget to mark down your hours on Thursday. We have a short week, stuff like that. Our HR department does stuff like that. And you can go to their SharePoint page as a viewer and just check out what their news ticker says, something like that. So every SharePoint site is going to look different than this generally, but you're going to have some familiar areas. And today we're going to focus on the document library. And that's like, it might just say documents right here, or there's a classic SharePoint view. Let's just stick with the modern one. I'm not even familiar with this view, I'll be honest, but the whole back end is pretty much the same. There's still the same capability. This is just more of a more dynamic, if you will, I guess, interface. You can see like all the mouse over animations and stuff, but you can customize this. You can, put a link to your ticketing system. If you're a company, we generally would do that on the SharePoint page, because people might just say, well, everything should be in SharePoint. Well, the ticketing system, we don't use SharePoint for that, but we link to it from the SharePoint internal website. Years ago, many companies, not even that many years ago, had to have their employees VPN in because that protected data needed to be only accessible like on-premise for a work environment. So you'd have to VPN in if you're at home to connect to SharePoint at all. That's becoming less common, and generally you can just go to office.com and access it from anywhere in the world. Because maybe you're somewhere in the world where they won't allow VPN connection, but maybe you could go to office.com. That's the benefit of having a SharePoint setup hosted with Microsoft, and not in your work environment like a shared drive would be. So let's click on documents here. And this is going to be, this might look like OneDrive to a lot of people that only have OneDrive. It looks very similar to this, or OneDrive for Business. OneDrive for Business is very much like SharePoint document libraries. So this is a document library, not a traditional one, but I just want to kind of keep this view really basic. I'm not going to do classic SharePoint view because I don't know if your company uses that. If they do, I could, if you have any questions about it, I can answer that because I'm more familiar with that than I am with this. Lists and stuff like that, creating SharePoint lists and stuff like that. But this, right now, we're going to work with just uploading a document. And this is like going to mimic what you might be asking about, Richard, is like, right now you might have your share drive. It might be called your P drive or whatever letter your employer wants to call it, whatever they mapped it as. And you want to upload it to the cloud now because your employer is saying, hey, everybody, you got one more week. Or your mean IT guys, like, you got one more week to get your shit off the drives. And they swore at me like that too. And they said, if you don't have it off there, it's gone forever. And we won't get it back. And then they just drink Red Bull and then go home early. So, but all you do really is you can drag and drop it like this, and you'll see like the little border. And if or you can just go to the upload icon right here, and you can upload templates, folders, files. The more modern interface now, it used to not allow whole folders. It was like drag and drop individual files, but you can do whole folders now apparently, which is sweet. In newer versions of SharePoint, I think 2013 and newer. But let's upload a file. So I pretend I have a file on my computer, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to lose it. My computer's been acting really funny. Well, once you upload it to SharePoint, it's good forever. You can't really wreck it. Now, if your computer dies and you haven't uploaded this to SharePoint, I've seen in my IT career, numerous times where people lost everything on their hard drive. And it is so terrible. There's nothing you can do for them aside from spending thousands of dollars maybe to have somebody in a spacesuit take the hard drive apart and dissect the platters and still might not even get it. Or, there's a lot of technical work in getting that out of a hard drive. But anyways, generally you're going to be screwed if you lose your computer and you haven't uploaded to SharePoint. So let's just take these 3 files. I just have a folder full of crap. I'm going to drag and drop them into SharePoint, and they're going to upload. There they are. They're in SharePoint. So now, so I don't have any duplicates and confusion going on, I could just go ahead and delete this folder from my computer and never see it again. Now that I know it's uploaded in SharePoint. So here in SharePoint, you see those files now. And what you can do from SharePoint is open that file and work on it. But the cool thing is it's constantly saving. So when you're working on that file, and it's if you have the full Office suite on your computer, which you don't necessarily need, if you're just paying for the cheap Office subscription like me, you can just click on the file. Let's do this Word doc. I'm going to click it. It's going to open it. And once it's fully shows the the bar up here, you'll know it loaded. So now I'm in one of the nonsense documents I created, and you can see that it's a web version of Word. Well, what if I hate the web version? I did this last month on my little intro. You can click on Open in Desktop app, as you see it right up here at the top. Now, that only works if you have the Office suite installed on your computer. I'd say most people do that have an Office subscription. They probably have it. So again, this document is in SharePoint. I clicked on it. It opened up. Here it is. So now I can click on Open in Desktop app. And it gives a warning because it wants you to make sure that you really tried to launch that. And it brings it up on your screen in Word. But here, when you see this autosave right here that's on, when autosave is on, that generally means it's already syncing to the cloud as you're typing on it. If autosave's off, you're going to see that normally when you've just created a document on your desktop and you're working on it, like from your hard drive, which you want to stay away from that nowadays. Times have changed with keeping things safe. Now, computers are more reliable. Generally, you can work on them on your computer, but again, it's going to be more reliable saving to SharePoint. Their server is more reliable than your computer, and that's something you have to deal with. It just is. So these servers are super reliable, and they're backing up all across the country. If one half the country got blown up off the map, hope that never happens. Shouldn't say that ever either, but it's still safe. It's backed up on another server. It just duplicates, and that's happening without you having to know that. So that's pretty powerful right there, right? So anyways, I have this document open. I launched it from the SharePoint library that I uploaded it to. Next step is make a bunch of edits, type a bunch of garbage and save it. And also, it tells you automatically saving. You don't need to worry about it. Well, guess what? I'm old and I click save all the time. I click Control S, save, Control S, save. I'm obsessed and I can't stop myself. It will never change. It's annoying that I do that, but I will keep doing it. So I saved the document and it just told me, you're an idiot, quit hitting save. It basically said you don't have to do that, but I can't. I don't know what's my problem is. So anyways, once the document's saved, which it's automatically doing, you could just close the copy that you're working on your computer because, as you know, it's auto-saving to the cloud. So let's just close it. And then in that browser window, it left you with a refresh button, basically. It says continue here if you want. So if I click continue here, it's going to update to that version that was uploaded to the cloud. And, well, here's the cool part. So this is where people can really screw things up like me. I go into a document and I ruin it. Let's pretend I'm that guy that's going to do that right now. So multiple people can work on these documents at once too. That's a cool thing. Google Docs has had that for years in the browser. You can do it from your desktop too. You can open up the Word version. Google doesn't have that. Google doesn't have this full robust desktop version. They're all cloud, man. You know that, right? So let's pretend we're employee number 2. And we click open in desktop app. So they're going in and they're having a bad day. They drank way too much last night and they just are pissed that they had to come into work after drinking. It's a tough world. And so I am not happy. So that person wrote that in the document and they thought they were saving it to Notepad and their hangover was so bad, they didn't realize they did that. And they deleted the little flowchart icon. I don't know, and the description. So okay, delete whatever. And then they write it in all caps because they think that they rather than changing the screen resolution to something that they can view regularly, they type bigger, so they think they can see it easier. I am not happy. Okay, there we go. And they made it bold, so it's even easier to read, rather than making the text larger or changing the... Okay, so anyways, it's saved, and then you close it. And then you go... So a day later, employee number 1, you want to go back in here, and you go to open the document. You go to the document library. Let's start over. Let's pretend it's another day. We're signing in. We're like, I got to open SharePoint. Okay, so I'm going to go open that document that... I don't know, Drunk Timmy edited the other day. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this is. Where'd it go? Oh, it's loading. It's still loading still. What? What's it doing? That's weird. Okay, I've never seen it just sit there with the logo. Let's try this again. You click the logo. And then it loads, oh man, what happened? Who did this? So that happens. You come in, you're like, oh man. And then you see, I'm not happy. Who did this? I don't know. I want this back the way I had it. Who screwed this up? Somebody didn't know what they were doing. And anyways, you can go back to the SharePoint library and it will say modified by, and it'll just have the person's name right there for one thing. It'll show the last person that changed it. So if you open it up, I don't have somebody here to test it with me, but if you open it up and it was James Hanley, that's my middle name anyways, but that edited it would say modified by, and it would change to their name. You would see that, right? So this is basic for a lot of SharePoint people that use it a lot. And again, this is an intro, but maybe you'll still learn something you don't know, right? So anyways, there's document versioning. This is huge. You can right click on the document. You can click on this little 3 series of ellipses, and you can see version history. And you can see each version every time it's saved, it creates a new version. So you have 3 versions because I've changed it 3 times. I created it. That's version 1. Save some sloppy text 2. Drunk Johnny or Timmy 3. Well, we can just view like little previews of each version. You can view it. But we already know that version 2 that's the second time I went in. I fixed it. I'm just going to click restore. And I'm going to click OK. And it's going to not work. But I don't know why I did that. What's going on? Version history. That's really weird. Let's just click version 2 and see if we can even open it. See if it brings it up. Oh, sweet. I don't know why it's got that error, though. In a 2-year period, I think we've had one SharePoint outage like that was Microsoft like countrywide. So I've seen it go down, but still less than I've failed to save something or screwed it up on my own hard drive. I think I've done that and I've like deleted something and just realized I screwed myself over. So yeah, it was an inconvenience. It was like half the day they were out, I think. And we were like, oh my God. And people are just writing to us and we're like, it's not our problem. It's Microsoft, but we'll keep asking them. So that's basically where you're in an IT role when it comes with a hosted service. You're just like, let me ask them, are you guys back online? No. So it's just me relaying a message in that case. But so right here, you can see it says compare versions, which is really cool. You can compare. And it will just kind of like roll it to show you all the different versions, and you can just pick one. You're like, oh my God, that's the one that's before Timmy screwed it up. I want that one, and you can just go with it. So I could click. Let's click. Here's the 4 revisions. Oh my God, I mean, you can see this is why the desktop app is so much more powerful. I can pull this stuff up right on the screen from the internet to your screen. The autosave button is not on here, as you notice. So anyways, let's close the original document, backup version. This is the revised version. I'm not happy. I don't want that. This is the one that says I'm not happy. I don't want that. Let's close this. You can see right here, here's the little edit that was made. Here's a space that was made down here. Let's close this version and don't save it. And okay. I'm going to restore this one. I like it. Okay, so I hit restore. And what it's going to do is it's going to make another version in the cloud. There's another version happening right now. If SharePoint's not crashing or whatever just happened, which is terrible timing. I don't know why. Oh, the autosave's on, so it must have saved. I don't know. Restore. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's just go back to the, wow. We're just rolling with this. This is why going live it's never perfect. So let's open up this Word document again and see what it looks like. I am not happy. Okay, let's close it and let's go to version history. Yeah, there's only 3 there still. What the heck? So if you go here and you go to, well, what you would do is you just go to restore it and you click OK, and it wouldn't give you an error like that. It's locked for editing. If you ever see that locked for editing error, that's usually because somebody has the desktop version of SharePoint open against people having it editing in the cloud. If you can edit in the cloud and you're just making quick edits, I highly recommend you just edit in the cloud because you won't run into this. It's usually a little delay where you just close the desktop app and then you can, the people working in the cloud won't get locked out. Depends on your setup. If you have an older version of SharePoint too, oh God, you'll see it a lot, but it's gotten better. Let's mess with the Excel file and not butcher this like I did. I closed the desktop app, by the way, so it might take a few minutes. But me having that desktop app open and then trying to make those changes, that's a no-no. You don't want to do that. You want to save the desktop app and then get out and then go look in the browser if you want to roll back. But let's click the Excel doc. These are all just filled with garbage data. So let's make some changes. And then let's put a big string of numbers. You should put a apostrophe, by the way, if you're going to put a big string of numbers. That won't crash. It'll let you enter them as is if you use an apostrophe. And there we go. I wrote a big string of numbers, and it's saved. So you got, there it is. It's saved, right? So we're going to close this and watch. This will work because I wasn't really just being destructive like I was earlier. You can go here and go look at version history, and now we have two versions. The first version was from 8:41 p.m. and the second one was from 8:52 p.m. Well, we want to go back to this version. Let's go to restore, click OK, and it worked. See how fast that was? And now we have a third version, which is the restored version. It put you to a third version. It's really, really careful of backing things up for you. Does not happen on your computer or necessarily unless you have some kind of shadow copy or on a shared drive. So you can trust this a little more than you can with the old school shared drive. So let's open up the new version, 7.11. And I'm going to open it in Excel, like the full desktop app. And this is pretty cool. Also, I don't know, this is like extra or should be talked about. There's a review tab right here, review tab. And, oh, they talked about, yeah, so comments or Microsoft's in the process of changing that stuff right now too. They're making it into notes, and used to be able to see like a little, almost like Adobe Reader, whatever, where you can add notes in the PDF. But they're it's because of all this integration with Teams and stuff, and maybe we'll do a Teams thing. I don't know if that's even needed because Microsoft has so many great Teams introduction videos. But anyways, if you go to the review tab, there's a lot of little options on here that are pretty cool. One, yeah, you can add the comments, and what was I going to show you here? This is a little different now. There's the notes. Yeah, that's new, but it's pretty cool. It's tucked away up there, and you can add the note, and it's still flexible. It's not like they're taking anything away. There is a lot of fragmentation, if you will, with notes in like OneNote and the OneNote app, and then it's showing up in Microsoft Outlook email. There's like a little note folder. Microsoft kind of gets messy with that, but there's a lot of options, and it's pretty cool. So that's good to know that that's there, these reviews. You can add these notes there, by the way. And let's see how that translates to the browser. I'm not that familiar with this, but test note poop. I wrote test note poop, and I click that, and let's see, show all notes, test note poop. There it is. So let's save. It's already saved. As you can see, up here it says saving. So you can see it's already done that for me quicker than I was able to do it. It still says saving. Let's just see if I can just close it. Yeah, it's saved. So let's refresh the SharePoint page, and let's open the Excel in the browser. And if we go to review and we go to show comments, there they are on the right side. Very cool. And you can add notes from the browser side. And the desktop or the web version of it's working fine now because I closed the desktop app and I fully made sure it was saved. Again, you might run into a little snag like I did where I didn't save it, or I just was in the middle of saving it and closed it and it thought it was still open. That's where the browser and the desktop version can clash, because maybe your server that it's uploading it to Office is in the middle of uploading it and it thinks it's, I don't know. It tends to, I've seen it happen before. So yeah, if you're working in a group of people, also be sensitive to if you're opening it up in the desktop version, do you really need to, or can you just go in the browser and edit a couple cells? And it's just far smoother to do this in the browser if you're working on a team of like multiple people editing it. If you're just working by yourself in your own little OneDrive or SharePoint site, it's fine. People love the desktop app still because it feels like it's just, you know, you can move it around and a little more smooth than the browser. basically we walk through uploading and editing. And that's funny. I'm seeing my screen delay. There's co-authoring capabilities. I mean, just open it up in the browser if you're working with multiple people. Invite them to work on the document. Click on Share up at the top. And if you click Share up at the top right in the browser version or the desktop version, I believe it has it under the File tab, and then it brings that little cutout. We'll check that out in a sec. But you can, when you go to share something with somebody, you always want to check the default if you want them to be able to allow them to edit. Because by default, it's most likely going to be checked. So if you're going to go share it with somebody, do you want them to be able to edit it, or you just want them to have view-only permissions? Because a lot of people want you to just share something for somebody to see. I mean, if you're really a control freak, you can just export it to PDF and then send it to them in email where they can't do anything or request access or anything like that. But it's easy to share right from the document, because if it's centralized in SharePoint, keep it there, not in an email chain. That's one of my pet peeves. If somebody's just like emailing the document itself, like, is that the latest version? Just send me the link that's being worked on. You know what I mean? So I always try to request that too. Just, do you have the version? Like, can I have access to the document? Even view only? Just something. So you want to check that. When you go to share something, maybe you want to uncheck allow editing and then type in the email address of the person you want to share it with. And when you click apply, it sends them an email with a link to the live document. That's really cool. I love doing that. That's it just feels like you don't have to update anybody on anything. Just check out the link I sent you earlier. And then when they go visit it, it's going to be the latest version because it's live. So let's go back to opening up this Excel document in the desktop app. And I'll show you where the share button is there. My brain, oh, it's up. They did put it up at the top too, but it used to be, I think you just go to File, and then you would go to, where's it at? You'd go to Share right there. So it's like, okay, wait, there's all these share. I mean, they really want you to share, but right up here at the top, it's very similar to the browser. They're making this so streamlined and awesome. So right here though is also where you want to check this. You click the box, and then it gives you the option, allow editing. There it is again, uncheck. I don't want you to be able to edit. You don't need to be editing my documents. And then send it to, type the email address of the person. Or if you're in an organization, you can just start typing their name and it'll show up from the directory. So that's pretty cool. That's the reason you want to get rid of your crappy share drive, P drive, or whatever your workplace calls it. P drives and share drives that was the bomb diggity. Where when I worked at places, we could make it launch at startup and map the drive and connect itself. But now you can just tell people to go to a website and it's all there, and it's way more reliable than our server. So another benefit again is that VPN's not required in most cases if you have Microsoft 365. Let's take SharePoint to the email. Can I do that? Can you see my email? I don't know if I got anything. Let me take it off on another screen. I got to make sure there's nothing personal from any companies that I have in there. Let's try it. So generally, you can go to your email. You can do it right from the cloud, the portal here, and just click the Outlook icon. Or the direct link to it is outlook.office365.com. And you can go there. And I'm pulling this up on my screen, by the way. SoundCloud. I got some likes on my SoundCloud, and apparently I've paid money to people through PayPal. Let me just move a few things off my screen here, because this is a benefit of doing it live, right? Just because I don't want people's personal information. It's not my stuff. I'm worried about showing other people's stuff. Repair team. All right. And got a couple more. Most of this is just like Facebook ads receipts, which is fun. Records. All right. Okay. So here's an email. So if you click the email icon right here, this Outlook one, it's going to take you to this site right here where you have your email. And this is the email I use to reach out to people, reach out to sponsors. This is not my work email, but it's my podcast work email, like my fun, and it's my randy@randyhanley.com email. You can email me. It's it's pretty cool. Today's drink is a new one that we're trying. Krista bought this. It's Italian sparkling mineral water, Whole Foods. So it's like their Pellegrino or whatever. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Pretty good. And I don't know. I'm liking it. So now, okay. So say you have a SharePoint library and you got all your stuff set up and you have to work out of that every day. Your boss is like, everything needs to be in SharePoint. I need control over you. And you need to stay in SharePoint. Okay. And okay, so now you're like, well, I need to send files to people. They're not in on my folder like I'm used to on my computer where I had control. You have control. I don't have control. I need to get you a file. So I need to send somebody a file and it's in SharePoint, but I need to email it, but I don't want to attach it okay, well, easiest way right off the bat is to go to SharePoint, just give them the link to the SharePoint library. Or if your SharePoint administrator gives people access on a person-to-person basis, one-by-one basis, yeah, they can just give them access to the SharePoint site, and they just go there and see the file, and just tell them to go to the SharePoint site and view it themselves. Okay, maybe you want to send it to somebody as a file, not the live SharePoint version, somebody externally. You should ask your boss first, or whoever, or you should know better with your company data if you're allowed to do this, but maybe you want to share something externally. Well, that's what email's for, right? You can have external SharePoint users if they have some kind of Microsoft account that your administrator can add as like a guest, kind of like Microsoft Teams has that feature, but that has to be enabled for your organization. A lot of organizations might, maybe like a credit union or somebody that's pretty secure might lock that down, so you cannot just share it. Obviously, there's no way of stopping any, bad actors or somebody that really wants to like take a picture of the screen, email it. It's not 100% possible to stop everything, like people that really want to wreck things, I guess. But in short, though, let's pretend you have permission to share something in an email, because a lot of people just cannot get away from email, even though I think it's incredibly inefficient. You have your email up on the screen, your work-related email that's tied to your SharePoint or your OneDrive or whatever. You can go to create a new message, and when you're creating a new message, that's my signature, don't mind that, you have some options. And you can download the file to your computer the old school way, and then drag the file to the email to upload it yourself. But the thing is, it's connected in the email too. There's a way to attach a file from the email. It's like right up here at the top, this attach, and it will tell you can browse cloud locations. That's cool. You don't this is cool because you could be on a Chromebook, not even a real computer as I would call it. You can be on a Chromebook working in the browser and grabbing things from your SharePoint cloud and attaching them to an email and sending them to somebody. They don't have to know what you're working on. As long as you have a browser, you're able to do just about anything with these files. So you can see it's showing recent documents right away. All this AI is getting so cool and useful with Microsoft. Like it says right here, suggested attachments. I don't even have to browse cloud locations. Yes, I could browse cloud locations like my OneDrive folder from work, which is like your personal SharePoint, or you can browse SharePoint's document libraries that you have access to, and then you can maybe here I'll show you. If you click browse. Well, here's our marriage things. You can browse cloud locations, but like rate groups, recent Manly Henley podcast, and general. I don't know what I'm doing. This doesn't look familiar right here. But yes, you can go to recent, and there they are. There's some how-to Excels or whatever, but you can right now, we're just going to attach the one that's recent because it's right there. But your cloud locations are probably going to be different. Your folder structure, your OneDrive, all that. We're not going to get into OneDrive right now. But let's just click the July How to Excel. So depending on, sometimes you might get an option that will say share as a file attachment or share as a link to the SharePoint site. Right here, you can see it says anyone in my organization can edit it. What? You can manage access right before you send it, though. Recipients can view. So it updates it to just be the view copy. Now, you can set it to attach as a copy. There it is. They've changed that. This is better now. It used to be you had to pick the option right before you uploaded it. I don't know if you have an older version of OWA, Office Webmail, but right now this is pretty sweet. Since the last time I've done a training, this has changed a few months for this kind of training. And you can attach it as a copy, though. You might want to do that instead of giving them the live link because maybe they can't edit that live link. Maybe you're sending this to somebody that has a Gmail that's not in your organization. So you would want to click attach as a copy. And when you attach as a copy, now you can see it's a file with a file size that's in the email. So now I could send this to my Gmail or somebody's Yahoo email for them to check it out. Granted, make sure that the file itself, if your employer has like P2 licenses or some kind of office protection, there are things that like we've implemented at my workplace where it can detect if there is a number that looks like a social security number or a credit card number or an account number. It's very smart and it will just not happen. You'll click send and it just will never get there because we quarantine it and people can review it if we hear from an employee. So there could be other steps that you don't see there. So be sensitive to that and know that if you're going to just send a file, your workplace may have, restrictions and high-level security that's very capable of catching what's in that document. Doesn't matter that if you can't see it right here, the server can. So yeah, that's how you attach a file, and I think that's pretty good to know. That's really, I'm trying to think how much more we'll get into SharePoint. This isn't like a huge, I'm not teaching people how to set up SharePoint sites. That's usually done by your SharePoint administrator or your IT staff if you're a small company. Excuse me. Carbonation. And, the sync button here, this is getting more and more powerful too. You can allow SharePoint to sync to your computer. It used to be called Open with File Explorer, and you have to have Internet Explorer for that to work. But now, since OneDrive has evolved into some awesomeness, you can now sync directly from the browser to your computer. So the cool thing is, if you want that and you miss that, like that control that you had, where you had a shared drive on your computer and you just like to drag and drop files in there, you still have that with OneDrive because OneDrive can connect to SharePoint and treat it like a shared drive or a P drive or whatever. So look right up here. You see this sync button? When you click that, it's going to say that your domain or your workplace wants to open this app, OneDrive, because guess what it's going to do? It's going to connect that cloud version to the taskbar, which you can't see on my other monitor, but if you have OneDrive or if you have Windows 10, it generally has a little cloud icon. That's OneDrive. You can sign into that with that respective account that's tied to your work. So you'd sign into it with your work email address or your organization email address, and it will directly connect to the browser. And it's so cool. I use this every day. I rely on it. I upload all of my podcast episodes to it. So in a sense, I'm using SharePoint without even visiting the site. That's why it's kind of like, oh my gosh, look how much has changed. It's like I almost don't even need it. But SharePoint can get way more advanced than I'm going to get today, where you can automate things. You upload this document, this happens. Like it's got a lot more features in a corporate environment, but you're not going to need to implement that if you're just working by yourself like I am in there. But anyways, so I click the sync button right here, and then I got this open button. And on my other screen, it's checking my OneDrive subscription, and then it comes up with a pop-up. Oh gosh, can I screenshot it from my other screen? Let's see if I can do it. Boom. Man, I'm fast. I'm so fast. Yeah. Okay. So look at that. So what you'll see is something, if it's successful, it'll say you are now syncing the documents, the Manly Hanley podcast documents. And I can then go into my own OneDrive on my computer, just open it up like regularly. And let's see if it's on here. It'll generally show up as like a little tower or like a building. Yes. So right here, look on my left side. It gave me like a physical, like an actual clickable new icon. And just like where a mapped drive would show up, like what you used to get at work. Get why you don't need that anymore, really, as much. It's so I click this drop down and there's the file. Look at that. There are the files that I would normally have to go to the browser to view. This is why OneDrive kicks major ass. And it used to suck. It used to be terrible. People would just beg us for Dropbox. They'd be like, I need Dropbox. And Dropbox did really well with Windows for syncing, but their security and all these other issues, they're not as robust and trustworthy, in my opinion, as Microsoft is. Oh, I never thought I'd be saying that. Is Bill Gates out of court right now? I'm just kidding. But there's right here you got July Microsoft how to. There's those files, so I can actually go edit these, and then it's just going to pull them up instead of me going to the browser and clicking Open with Excel. I can just launch it here, and it's doing the same thing. So let's open up this Word doc and look at it. I am not happy. Oh my gosh, this person that's not happy is just... Okay, I want to erase that. I want to save it, Control S, and I want to close it. So let's close the document. And again, you see that I'm doing this from my computer. It feels like I haven't left my computer at all. Like I'm not leaving to go to the cloud. But this document in my OneDrive is really uploading to that SharePoint site actively. And this is a really good way to drag and drop and migrate files. If you want to connect that Windows to your SharePoint library and then just massive upload some files, that's a good way to migrate somebody from an old system to this newer, modern SharePoint system. You could have, I mean, maybe you want to upload all like accounting files, like, I don't know, tons of Excel docs. You could do it this way, I guess. And the even cooler thing, and this is something that was released like a year or so ago, is this little check mark and this cloud. So when you go to upload all your stuff to SharePoint, it doesn't have to stay on your computer, but you can keep it on your computer mirrored to what's in SharePoint. It used to be in Dropbox, I think is still like this. If you connect to that database or to that SharePoint or that Dropbox, it syncs, it replicates them from the cloud to your computer and just fills up your hard drive. OneDrive doesn't do that. It lets you choose what you want to mirror back so you don't fill up your dang hard drive. So if you have a 1 terabyte SharePoint site and it's filled up and you sync it to your computer that has 256 gigs, goodbye. You're gonna have to like clean up your hard drive, but it's not like that anymore. So now you can see that. Anyways, I shared that document, saved that document, and I'm going to go back to the browser here. Let's refresh the page. And let's open up the Word document. And you can see right here, it says about a minute ago, it was edited. That's the modified. So the modified column is that's probably your most useful column, in my opinion, is just seeing when something was modified. And then if you care who modified it, somebody, you want to see who wrecked something. Anyways, click it in the browser and open it, and there it is. There's the version. You can see it's almost, I don't have to ever even go into SharePoint at this point. So that's kind of cool. So let's close that document. Sorry, it's really late here. It's like 12:15. So what else would you want to do? You could even right click in the file. Since this is a Windows Explorer, folder, you can right click here and go to new file and just create a new scratch document and start working on it. So I could right click and click create a new Word document. Let's call it Sunday, whatever document, okay? And then press enter. And then there's nothing in that document yet, right? Well, I want to start editing it. I'm going to double click it, go into it. This is a document, and it's automatically saving, so I'm going to close it. And let's refresh this page. And oh my gosh, there's a new document in the library. I didn't have to go there, but I could create documents and say, hey boss, I put a new document in there. We can start tracking all the expenses and all the burritos I'm eating. We can track that, and I keep the cost right in there. And if you want to keep up on how many burritos I'm eating, just go in there and look. Okay, cool, yeah. So then they can go in here and open it up. And there it is. There's the document. Look how fast that was. That was super fast. It was quicker than me opening the browser, logging into the site, going there. It's as long as that OneDrive's connected, it's going to work. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we should cover. Still recording, and we're gonna upload this to YouTube. Man, I feel like this is almost more like a OneDrive tutorial, but your SharePoint should have this functionality. There's Power Apps. I'm not getting into any of that. I'm not an expert in that. Automate. Now, it used to be called Microsoft Flow. They just renamed it to Power Automate. I think it's because Power BI is very popular, and again, I don't get into training for that. It's very powerful software. Our company uses it heavily. We just maintain where it's stored and all that, but in the access to the Power BI licenses and stuff like that. But that can all tie into SharePoint now. It's like so powerful. I have to catch up on that myself, actually. But yeah, this is basically what you want to know about SharePoint, is mainly the document libraries, and I think you're pretty safe getting around. That's what most people use as an end user in SharePoint. Again, if you're an administrator, of your SharePoint administrator gives you certain permissions, they can allow you to, grant people access to the SharePoint site that, maybe it would be beneficial at your workplace if your HR has the admin credentials, the admin level to delegate, other HR employees to the HR site, because we don't want IT people in there if they're not supposed to edit or mess with those documents. They only HR people. So you can lock things down too. That's where it's really cool, and that's SharePoint administration. But it's really great that you can do that because it's more visible and easy to determine who has access to what than it is on like a share drive. Share drive, you got to right click on folders. I don't know if you've been around in the IT, if you've been using computers even as long as me, you've seen this. And it's like right click on the folder, share. Who has access to it? Do they have, can write? Can they read? It gets messy by doing it that way. And SharePoint is just a way where you can give somebody access to a site, and they have it's all encompassing. They can just have access to the whole document library. You can even make it. Our company does this too. Our SharePoint administrator, who is awesome with this stuff, can make it so every new employee gets access to this one SharePoint site where you read the news ticker and stuff. That's how we have it. That's so cool because I couldn't come in, so if I didn't work for this company, and log into their site and just get to that page. Only people that are as employees, but every employee has access to that by default. But not every employee is going to have access to like the HR SharePoint site. Just HR people, and maybe they want like the CEO to be able to go in there. We can do that, and that's important because once you grow as a company, you start working with other companies. They want to know that their data is safe and that it's not just a mess or like the Wild West, So that's where SharePoint's good for. And like I said, I think it's 85% of the Fortune 500 companies use it somehow. So thanks for watching. I hope this second 101 training was useful. Next month will be looks like we're at July 12th. Next month's going to be August 9th. So that'll be the next one. Maybe it's going to be it's going to be hot outside still, face it, here in Michigan. So thanks for watching, and share this with your friends. Let me know of any other content you want me to cover, because I can do a lot of other areas related to technology. Thanks. Bye.